getting you up and getting your sports day started.
I mean, I could wear a good-looking suit, and I could speak eloquently on his behalf.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast.
And then you'll take your remote and you'll push the button.
Okay.
And then magically the game will appear.
From Double T 97.3.
I guess there's a lot of logistics when it comes to the college football playoff and the management committee. The presidents and the chancellors kind of took matters into their own hands a few weeks ago when they said, you're going to 12, okay? And get there as quickly as you can. Mm-hmm. And the thought was, and I think it's still there, 2024, which is, in 2 years. But apparently the management committee still needs more time to expand for 12 as soon as 2024. Bill Hancock, the executive director, quoted as saying, "We won't wrap up this week." They had meetings that lasted almost 7 hours at the Big Ten headquarters. It's never been done before, and so anytime you have new ground to break, it takes a lot of conversation to make sure you're not missing any details. The 10 FBS commissioners, including the Big 12 commissioner, Brett Yormark, and Jack Swarbrick, of course, the Notre Dame athletic director, are going to meet again this morning, and then they're going to meet again on October 20th in Dallas. They're considering moving the entire season to week 0, which would then be week 1, right? And then having the conference championship games on Thanksgiving weekend. How would you feel about that?
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be certainly a highlight, right? Mm-hmm. A highlight weekend. Obviously you're going to have, the NFL games on Thanksgiving Day. There's games that'll be the day after. There's always big games the day after Thanksgiving, and that's Saturday. And, of course, NFL games on Sunday. The thing that I guess I look at this and go, okay, why do we always have to accommodate all these things? But the College Football Playoff Committee has already announced that Atlanta will host the national championship game in January of 25. So that'd be for the 24 season. And then Miami in 2026. The problem with Atlanta, and kind of moving some of these other things around is hotel rooms, and especially for, the early round games, not necessarily for that game, but first round games, and they need to see if hotels and convention centers in the host cities can accommodate an expanded field. And then they're worried about how the New Year's Six Bowls will handle the rotation, as the 4 quarterfinals and 2 semifinal games will be played in bowls. They would have to come to terms on a TV contract for the first round games. ESPN would retain control through existing bowl and playoff deals of the quarterfinals, semifinals, and title game until the current contract expires following the 2025 season.
Get it figured out.
Get it figured out, right.
Get it figured out.
Yeah. That's the first thing that went through my mind. Is like, okay, well, y'all get in the room and stay in the room and just figure it out.
Yep.
So that you can get to 12. The College Football Playoff Committee's Board of Governors voted unanimously on September 2nd to expand the playoff to 12 teams in 2026, if not sooner. And I think the if not sooner was, hey, get this done now so that we can take advantage of the money that's available today. Mm-hmm. Or the extra money that's available today.
Sure. Why wait?
So figure out all your little pesky details. Figure out how you're going to figure out how the Rose Bowl is going to be involved, because they're the ones that are going to moan the loudest, scream the loudest, because they're the granddaddy of them all. So once we get that figured out, then we can go about the business of having 12 college football playoff teams. I do think when you get to 12, Jamie, I want your opinion on this. I do think the regular season becomes even more meaningful, just from the standpoint that I feel like if you have an early loss, if you're one of the top 10 teams, it doesn't immediately knock you out of potentially being in that college football Final Four.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't know that it hasn't been meaningful before, but I do agree that I like that aspect of it, that you still have a shot to win a national championship. And so hopefully that leads to teams still scheduling tough teams, so they aren't fearful of getting knocked out with one loss.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is by, and part of what I mean by the regular season more meaningful doesn't mean that it's not now, but when you have more teams that have a chance to get into the quote playoffs, whether it's baseball or football or basketball or whatever, just keeps your fan base interested at a more intent level, I think, longer, especially if you're in that top 25 or top 15 or top 20, knowing that on any given week that you could potentially move in to at least a playoff situation, either potentially host a game or go on the road for a game. And then once the games start, I do think it's going to be one of those things where there will be upsets. There will be teams that will be playing hot. There will be teams that will have key injuries. So it won't just be the usual suspects playing for a national championship.
And keep more guys from skipping their bowl game to prepare for the draft and all that. They're playing games that matter, that are possibility that it could lead them to playing for a championship. Hopefully they'll stick around and play.
Yeah, all those things. So I just don't know, it just kind of makes me go, okay, figure it out, guys. Just get in there and make it happen. So we'll see. We'll see what transpires with that. This also, it'll be interesting to see how this affects coaches, because if you have a 12-team college football playoff, schools like potentially Mississippi or Kentucky, both of whom have coaches, Lane Kiffin and Mark Stoops, and especially Mark Stoops, who may have an opportunity to go somewhere else at a bigger school, a bigger football school, I should say. It's not necessarily a bigger school. But if you have 12, then like currently Kentucky's ranked 8th and Ole Miss is ranked 11th, then they would say, well, why would I leave here to go start over somewhere else when I can potentially put myself into a college football playoff situation? And if I'm recruiting and have my program in place, I don't need to up and leave just to go to a little bit bigger school where I feel like I've got a true chance to win a national championship. You would think with the resources that would be available at Kentucky and even Ole Miss, that those guys, it may inspire some coaches to stay at their places a little bit longer as opposed to jump to the bigger school.
And I'd like to think it'll help in recruiting for other schools as well. So it's not just the same 4 teams every year in the playoff, because I think sometimes guys are like, well, I really like this other school, but if I'm going to get to the college football playoff, I got to play for one of these 4 schools.
Yeah.
And so it leads to those 4 schools, you're going to be in the playoff. It's got to go through there, you know? And so now I think hopefully that gives guys an opportunity to think, man, I could still play in the playoff, still give myself a chance to play for a national championship if I go to other schools. Now, that doesn't mean that all 130 Division I football programs are going to be like, yeah, well, I can get there through South Dakota State or what? No. I mean, but it expands it past at least 4, and I think that's a positive.
Yeah, and not that everybody in the Power 5 conferences is going to have a shot at it, but I think it opens up the ability for more schools to have a shot at it.
South Dakota State's an FBS school, aren't they?
Yeah.
Or FCS school, I mean.
Well, so
that was bad.
They may not be in there.
Bad choice.
They still don't have a shot at the national championship. I mean, it's a fair statement.
Just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
No, it kind of did, there for a little while, but you pointed it out. Pointed out it really didn't. We'll have the high school fan zone for you on the air tonight. Friendship and Lubbock Cooper coaches will be in attendance. The Friendship coaches don't have to worry about a game this week. They've got their bye week. So they'll talk about, hey, is the bye coming at a good time? That'll be a good question to ask today. It's always one to ask. The Lubbock Cooper coaches had their bye last week, so they'll talk about, Chip Darden will, about Coronado and the Mustangs that are coming up on Friday night. We'll have it for you on Oldies 97.7. That's the Coronado version at 6:45. And Tommy Wood will have Lubbock Cooper here on 100.7 The Score. Then on Friday night with the kick at 7 o'clock from the Pirates' place. Look forward to that.
Getting you up and getting your sports day started.
That's me, man.
Wow.
highly,
Impressive.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast.
I'm like the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Because your kids don't want mums?
My oldest is a senior, and I think we made it through without paying for a single mom.
Well, isn't the guy supposed to pay for the mum?
Oh, I don't know.
From Double T 97.3.
Today is the 28th day of September, 2022. Time for this day in sports history. Here is Jeff McGuire.
All right, so a couple of days ago, we talked about how charges were brought against the 8 players in 1920 for the 1919 Chicago White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the grand jury has now charged them. They've been indicted now by the grand jury, being charged with fixing the 1919 World Series in Chicago.
Okay.
And the famous Black Sox scandal. Again, we're going to fast forward just a little bit and let you know that the Chicago grand jury did not convict them.
Okay, right.
Because, Chicago in the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
Surprised it even got this far. 1923, though. Yankees slaughter the Red Sox. 24-4.
Nice.
1930, Lou Gehrig's errorless streak ends at 885 consecutive games.
That's incredible.
That's like 7 years, I think.
Yeah, pretty close,
7
right?
years without an error. All right, I should be able to say the year and the player, and you tell me what this is. That's how big this is.
Okay.
1941, Ted Williams.
400?
406.
Would he go like 6 for 6 on his last day or something like that?
It was something he needed. If he didn't play today, he would have. His average was 399.6 or something, so it would have averaged up. And then he went like 3 for 4 or something, 4 for 5, something along those lines to get it to 406.
Yeah.
1955, the first World Series color TV broadcast on NBC. The Yankees beat the Dodgers. 1960, Ted Williams hits his final home run, number 521 for his career. 1974, California Angel Nolan Ryan's third no-hitter beats the Minnesota Twins 4-0. 1986, tight end Brian Foster of Rhode Island catches an NCAA record 18 passes for 327 yards. 1988, LA Dodger Orel Hershiser breaks the former Dodger Don Drysdale's record by pitching 59 consecutive scoreless innings. A record I am sure is not still active today. 1991, New York Yankees set a record of 75 games without a complete game pitched.
Oh, yeah. It's got to be somebody that's beyond that now, right?
Probably so.
Like every team in Major League Baseball, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
1994, Ken Burns' documentary miniseries Baseball airs on PBS. Have you seen it yet, Jamie?
I have not. Mm-mm.
It is fantastically good. And in 1997, St. Louis Cardinal Mark McGwire hits his 58th home run of 1997. Remember, the first 34 of them were with the Oakland Athletics. It is National Strawberry Cream Pie Day and National Drink-A-Beer Day.
Oh, hey, sign me up. I don't know that I could do both at the same sitting.
Be a little weird.
Yeah, a glass of milk with that strawberry cream pie would really wash that thing down well.
I don't know if beer would go well with the strawberry.
I think the beer is with the
cream
meal prior to the dessert.
Yeah.
The dessert comes with a cold glass of milk.
Happy birthday to Hillary Duff, who's 35. Naomi Watts is 54. Tyler Lockett is 30. And Emeka Okafor is 40 today. And on this
name
day
from the past.
And on this day in 1965, 6 years after the led Cuban Revolution and 4 years after the failed U.S.-backed Bay of Pigs invasion, Fidel Castro announces that any Cuban who wished to leave the island was free to do so. With Cuban forces no longer blocking civilians from leaving, a massive wave of immigration ensued, bringing hundreds of thousands of Cuban immigrants to Florida. Immediately, several thousand refugees boarded boats heading for Florida, leading to a haphazard crossing that threatened to overwhelm the U.S. Coast Guard and immigration authorities. As a continuation of such perilous crossings was in neither's interest, the U.S. and Cuba engaged in a surprising cooperative negotiations, resulting in Freedom Flight's airlift program. For the next 8 years, 10 flights a week from Cuba to Miami, and many Cubans waited years for their spots on these planes. Roughly 300,000 people made the trip this way. With the movement of people had several major effects on both countries. Castro was able to rid the island of many dissenters, although their departure was propaganda victory for the Americans and many that led to some significant brain drain in Cuba. It also markedly changed the demographics of Miami. And it was during this period that the city's Little Havana neighborhood became a permanent enclave in Cuban culture. And that is this day in sports history.
All right, 6:50 this morning here on the Morning Drive. I saw this. You've seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
No.
Jeff?
He lives it every day, Chuck. He doesn't need to see the movie. Yes, I've seen it.
Nurse Ratched died the other day. Her name was Louise Fletcher. She was 88. She won an Oscar for her role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that starred Jack Nicholson. Really kind of put him first and foremost in front of people. What you don't know, and what I didn't know after reading this article, was that among those that turned it down, the role of Nurse Ratched, Anne Bancroft and Angela Lansbury, whom you know as the gal on Murder, She Wrote.
I don't think I could see Angela Lansbury in that role.
Right.
No.
She said, I was the last person cast. It wasn't until we were halfway through shooting that I realized the part had been offered to other actresses who didn't want to appear so horrible on the screen. She won the Oscar.
Sure, yeah. It's a difficult part to play, and she played it well. But yeah, I don't want to see Angela Lansbury in that role.
Right. And here's the cool thing. Another thing I didn't know.
That would be like Julie Andrews playing that role. It doesn't fit.
Right. As she held her Oscar the night that she won, she did sign language to her parents, both of whom were deaf. I want to thank you for teaching me to have a dream. You are seeing my dream come true.
That's cool.
That is cool. You know, that she would rise up and, every time even today, you know, that was 1975 is when that film came out. But even today, when somebody gets angry, particularly, you know, a woman, they're like, don't be a Nurse Ratched on me, you know, right? Even today, almost, 50 years later, that film still resonates in so many different ways. Pepsi Man has weighed in this morning on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, and he's put up a little graphic there on the Yates Flooring Center chat line proclaiming the New York Yankees American League East champions. So they clinched the division last night, so that's one thing. He said, good morning, guys. I have to say, how about those Yankees? The Aaron Judge wait continues, though.
It's helping them win games.
It's helping them win games. What, you had 4 walks last night?
4 walks. And no, I don't have an issue with what the Blue Jays are doing. I mean, they're trying to get themselves into the playoffs. So if they think that avoiding giving him a bunch of pitches to hit is the right thing to do, then I have no problem with that.
Yeah, so be it.
Yeah. So I have no issue with that whatsoever. That's doing what's best for your team.
Yeah. Well, he still has time.
He'll get it. I'm not. And if he doesn't, he doesn't. I would like for him to.
Yeah.
He's still got, a home series with I believe the O's, and then 4 games in Arlington, and so we'll see.
Looks like the Astros will have home field advantage at least throughout the American League playoffs.
It would take a miracle for them, not to.
Not to. The Dodgers right now are the quote best team in baseball. They're with their record 106 and 48, a 688 percentage. Are they the best team in baseball right now?
I don't know, man. I think the Astros are pretty good. The Dodgers are loaded, though. I mean, man, it's just hard to imagine either one of those teams not making it to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland is probably going to have something to say about the way they've been playing. They are absolutely white hot.
They're 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, double that, and you're still not at what their last 20 is. They're playing insane baseball.
Toronto's atop the American League wildcard spot, then Tampa Bay, then Seattle, then Baltimore. In the National League, it's the Mets, Atlanta, San Diego, and Philadelphia, with Milwaukee close behind.
Recapping yesterday while looking ahead to today's sports day.
But I bet you many of his coaches probably haven't. They're like, who is this? What is this Mayberry that you speak of, right?
This is the Morning Drive Podcast.
Sign me up. Get your popcorn ready.
From Double T 97.3.
Hey, good morning. It is the Morning Drive on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lint and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Take your thoughts and comments from the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to Double T 97.3.com. For that, go through the mobile app. It's presented by Happy State Bank. This from the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Washed up guy. I believe Deuce Vaughn to be the best football player in the Big 12 Conference.
He's really good. He's really good. I mean, I think Bijan Robinson would be in the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Texas. I would put those two at the top of my list, right off the top of my head, of anybody that I could think about.
Okay.
You got anybody else that you would throw in there?
No. I don't think so. Well, just right off the top of my head.
Nobody just jumps out at me that's a superstar.
Entering this season, he ranked first among all active non-kickers in career points, second among active players in career all-purpose yards, 134 game, fifth in rushing yards per carry, and total touchdowns. Right now, he entered the 2022 season ranked third in Big 12 history in scrimmage, which is rushing plus receiving yards per touch, 6.8, just behind Oklahoma's Kennedy Brooks and Texas's Vince Young. Those are two pretty good players to be right behind coming into it. Here is Coach McGuire on the K-State running back, Deuce Vaughn.
They have one of the best backs in the country, so we're going to face back-to-back to where you're playing a guy. I mean, Deuce, we've seen what he can do. He's done it since he's come into the Big 12. He's a great player. Thing that he's complete, catches the ball great out of the backfield, and he's got incredible body balance, and he's tough to get down.
Without question. And, I mean, he's just – and he described him as being different than Bijan Robinson. But
definitely.
But, you know, also just extremely hard to get down, you know, and
well, he's just really shifty. He's hard to get a clean
elusive,
shot
yeah.
on. And, I mean, obviously great speed as well, but his cuts are terrific. I think Bijan can do a lot of those things, but not as good. But then Bijan is stronger running through tackles than Deuce Vaughn is. I think Vaughn just, I mean, just with his size and his shiftiness, he just never feels like you square him up. And because of that, he's able to slip through some of those tackles or able to fall forward at the very least.
All right, so with regard to the K-State quarterback, because Josh writes in and says K-State quarterback may be the best, and then, you know, his name is Adrian Martinez. Here is Coach McGuire on facing Martinez on Saturday.
You know, it's going to be tough. I'm trying to think through. I mean, we've faced some guys that can extend plays with their feet, but we haven't faced anybody like this. This guy's totally different. I mean, where you can say, you know, maybe Toon he's a dual threat guy, but he's really going to try to beat you with his arm. This guy can do it anyway with his arm and his feet. I mean, he's a true dual threat guy that they're going to have designed quarterback runs, and he can fly. I mean, I'm sitting there watching guys take angles that you think are good angles, and he's just eating up grass and destroying. So we've got to do a good job of one, you got to play disciplined football. This is almost like playing a triple option team, because you got to have somebody that's got the running back, you got to have somebody that's got the quarterback. So you got to be really disciplined, and then you got to take good angles to the football. But there's sometimes too that they're just running quarterback zone or quarterback sweep, or just knowing that and really dialing in. It's going to be a tough task, because I thought our guys did a good job tackling on Saturday, but again, this is a different animal, because you can get caught up with your eyes on Deuce, and then the next thing you know, Martinez coming out and he's flying down the sideline. So we got to do a good job of responsibility football and being where we're supposed to be on defense.
And sometimes that K-State offense, it's so maddening, because you just feel like, as you're watching it, it's like in slow motion sometimes. And the next thing you know, they're 20 yards down the field.
Yeah, I think they'll be a little bit different, because Martinez is a different quarterback than some of those guys that we've seen in the past, the Colin Klein types that were so methodical. Martinez is more explosive, and so it'll be interesting to see how much of their run game is still that, you take the snap and you wait 2 seconds behind the offensive line to see where it opens up. I just think Martinez is different, and they'll be a little bit different because of that. But it's hard to gauge him, because just clearly things didn't work out well for him at Nebraska, and you've seen him at times this year look pretty pedestrian and not a great player, but then last week he looked like an elite player.
He looked like an All-American.
Yeah, so he's just really hard to figure out, and because of that, it's going to make K-State's offense a little bit difficult to figure out.
Here's defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. He was asked on Monday, how do you slow down the Kansas State quarterback, Adrian Martinez?
I've known Adrian since he was a sophomore back in Fresno when I was the head coach at another school. And he's a very talented young man. He's very athletic, as you saw. He's the kind of guy that not only can beat you with his arm, but probably more importantly with his legs. And they've got some designed quarterback run game that puts a lot of stress on your gap integrity and just your run defense, where you've got to have somebody account for him all the time. And then you saw on third down, when everything was covered, he takes it on 3rd and 16 and moves the sticks and gets huge games that way. So you've obviously got to have a plan that's not just a normal plan like we've had the last couple of weeks, where guys primarily stay in the pocket. You've got a plan for the quarterback run game from designed and called runs, as well as the ad-lib things that he does a really good job with. And at the same time, he's completing over 60% of his passes. He spreads it out really well. I think they've got 5 different receivers with double-digit catches or close to it. Deuce Vaughn's somebody who we're obviously concerned about. He can get it to him in the throw game as well as running the ball, and the tight end and 2 receivers all have catches. So it's a really diverse attack that you can't just concentrate on one thing.
That's Texas Tech defensive coordinator Tim DeRuyter. Don't you? It's so funny sometimes how assistant coaches and players take on the personality of their head coach, and it's not uncommon. It's not new, but Coach McGuire always says the other school when referring to Baylor. Tim DeRuyter's coached for a number of different schools, but he always refers to it as the other school, depending on like who you're talking about, like whether it's Cal or Fresno State or Texas A&M or even where he came from. So it's like he's got a fistful of other schools, but it's always the other school. He's referring to somebody.
Man, most college assistant coaches have coached a bunch of different places.
No doubt.
Head coaches too. So,
somebody asked about Martinez. How many years has he been playing? He made 11 starts as a true freshman in 2018 at Nebraska. He started 10 games at Nebraska in 2019. Saw action in 7 games in 2020, so there's 3. And then in 2021, started each of the first 11, missed the finale due to injury. And now here he is at Kansas State.
Fun.
So there you go. So remember, they got the COVID year, that they that was basically a free space on bingo, was kind of how that all worked out. This is an interesting comment. from someone on the Yates Flooring Center chat line. Tyree Wilson is the best player in the conference. Most NFL ready.
He was a guy that I thought about, that I considered being in the conversation. I don't know that I would put him as high as those two running backs, but I think Tyree Wilson definitely deserves to be in the conversation.
He said, this person goes on to say, we don't fully appreciate what he's doing because he's a defensive end.
Yeah, no, that may be fair, but I still feel like I really appreciate him.
Yeah, no.
I think he's fantastic.
You're right.
He's got to be helping other guys,
right, with
single, not coverage, but be able to go one-on-one and be able to beat guys, and it's just he is probably overshadowed a little bit because he's not a skill position player on offense or whatever, but dude is a beast. He's killing it for us.
Yep.
Getting you up and getting your sports day started. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is presented by Bizarre Solutions. Call them today for a free cybersecurity audit.
7:31 this morning on the Morning Drive. You like that, a brunch gate as opposed to a tailgate?
Probably not a term I would ever use, but it's all good.
There's frankly a lot of terms that you would never use that I use.
That's probably fair.
On a daily basis, yeah.
And there's probably some that I use that you wouldn't use.
Just not a great. I mean, I kind of embrace some of your stuff, but some of my stuff is maybe a little bizarro. But that's understandable. Mm-hmm. All right, what you got for us today?
All right, my question for you today involves the Big 12 football conference.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't say Kansas. If Texas Tech does not win the Big 12 football conference, who are you rooting for to win the conference if Tech does not win it this year? Because it feels really wide open to me.
It does feel wide open. I really don't care, but if you're gonna put this in front of me, I guess I would say in the past I would have said Iowa State, because I kind of thought they were somewhat darlings, and kind of downtrodden, kind of have a tendency to want to root for them. I can tell you who I won't root for is Texas, Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma, Kansas State. So then that leaves me with, and you said I can't include Kansas, and I can't include Texas Tech, and
for you can't choose Kansas. Jeff can.
Right. Okay. So that leaves me with Oklahoma State, and that leaves me with West Virginia, and who am I leaving out here?
Did you mention Iowa State? You talked about them being your darling.
Yeah.
But then you didn't mention them when you said that
what I would tell
they would not be one.
You know what I would tell you? I would tell you Oklahoma State. I would root for them. I'd root for them to win the Big 12. If I can't pick Tech or Iowa or KU.
Okay.
Well, I'm not picking KU either. So I have to go by this reverse process of elimination.
Get you, man.
Because I'm not going Texas or Oklahoma. Ever. Those two schools can go suck an egg since they're leaving. They don't get a Big 12. They don't get my rooting interest.
Yeah, then even if they had stayed in the conference,
I can at least
go suck an egg too.
If Oklahoma was sticking around, I could in theory root for them. In theory, but no, they're leaving. Go suck an egg. Then we get TCU in the next group, right behind them, for a lot of the same reasons for Texas and Oklahoma. I put Oklahoma State right there with them because Texas Tech's recruiting battle and the perceived power of the Big 12 is going to be between Tech and Oklahoma State in the future. You then I can't root for West Virginia to win it because if they get that far, that means they beat Tech. I don't want to have that happen. I'm not rooting for Kansas because I don't want Kansas to win both basketball and football in the same year. That would just vomit in my mouth. Iowa State, I'm done with them. The darlings, the dark horse of the conference that always seems to come up short. I'm sick of it. They can just go away. That leaves me with Baylor, Kansas State, and of those two, I've got to go Kansas State. With Tech being the 10th school that you won't let me pick. I've got to go Kansas State here by default.
I'm surprised that you had Baylor as like
down to the nitty
no
gritty.
way, no how. And Jackson a couple weeks ago on this other radio show I do, he's like, "Yeah, Baylor. There's nothing really about Baylor that makes me hate them." I'm like, "What? Man, what are we doing?"
With the double regime change there,
I don't care.
Since what happened, and your head coach is from there and speaks so highly of the people there.
Sure.
My hatred for Baylor's football program in general has softened. Also, mainly because everybody else has grown.
Yeah.
Like it's been a factor of both.
Do you tend to dislike a school because of the players and coaches or their fan base?
Fan base?
What's the deciding factor there?
Fan base?
I think it's usually the fan base.
I can respect the players and coaches.
Yeah.
Respect the player, respect the program. Let's see. For me, I don't know if it's about fan base or it's just maybe fan base, but maybe just sometimes location.
Location?
Location. Like Austin and Manhattan. It's hard.
I cannot stand going to the city of Austin, but it's not because of the law. That was an answer I did not see coming.
Location, Manhattan, Kansas.
Did you get a speeding ticket in Manhattan once or something?
No.
Well, that's the shocker of the day. Okay, so
I don't think I have, to be honest with you.
Okay, so
outside of Manhattan, yes.
When asking this question and thinking about it beforehand, it all of a sudden just hit me, just slapped me right across the face. Okay, there's 10 teams in the Big 12 Conference.
Yeah.
I love the Red Raiders, okay, with all of my heart. And I hate 8 schools. I hate them. I hope they lose in everything they do. I hate 8 of them.
Who's the one you don't hate?
Kansas State.
Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know. I don't have beef with them.
Yeah.
I've never...
They haven't gotten in trouble for cheating.
Their coaches have never come across...
Well, it's been a while.
Yeah. Their coaches have never come across as cocky, arrogant, whatever, in any sport. They haven't had a player that irked me. I probably don't know a lot of Kansas State fans. I do know a couple. It's just their fan base hasn't annoyed me. And so that's the one school that I don't look at and say, I hate those guys. But every other one, whether it be coaches, players, fan base, I hate those guys. I mean, I really... And, of course, we're talking sports hate, right? I mean,
yeah, right.
Sports hate. I don't want any of them injured or to die or anything like that.
Texas.
But
as much as I dislike K-State, I have tremendous respect for what Bill Snyder did there.
Sure.
You know, so I mean, that's as big a compliment as I can pay.
I mean, the other 8 schools, there's just no way. A Kansas State's the one that I'm like, okay, Kansas State. That's not going to just bug me that much if they win it. Yeah. If any of the other 8 win the conference championship, I would hate it.
Who would be? Do you hate all 8 equally, or is there a ranking of your 8?
No, there's a ranking.
Okay.
TCU and Oklahoma State would be at the top.
At the top. Why Oklahoma State? I'm just curious.
Fan base.
Fan base, you just don't like them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that more from a baseball standpoint, or
it's all sports?
All sports. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
TCU 100% the fan base.
Sure, I get that.
But Schlossnagel too.
Yeah.
I mean Gary Patterson.
Right.
I mean, what is to like? I mean, there's so much to hate there.
Right.
Yeah,
No, you're right.
Those 2 would be at the top. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
My sister's
Oklahoma would be closer to the bottom of my hate list.
If they weren't leaving.
No, I don't care. Again, whether they were leaving or not, whatever. Texas would be near the top of my hate list too.
Yeah.
Baylor would as well.
Yeah, I know KU's pretty high up there too for you, which I understand.
Fan base.
Yeah, no. Hey, and I've told a lot of,
the local ones we've had here are just a pain.
I've told people in maybe there's a lot of arrogance up there and snobbery, and there's KU is as close to the Texas fan base as probably anybody else. In terms of the northern schools, there's a lot of similarities. There's some similarities to Austin and KU too, just the town makeup of the townies and the hippies and the whatnot, weird people. I mean, it's.
I think we all have weird. Every fan base has some weird people.
I know, but I mean, there's a pretty high level, high number of them up there. So I get it. I get it. 7:40 this morning here on the morning drive. Your thoughts, your comments. Who do you hate the most? We'll take them on the Yates Flooring Center chat line.
Big plays and even bigger laughs.
If they get 7 out of those two things, game over. Mm-hmm. You're not winning. You're not winning that game at all.
This is the Morning Drive podcast.
Basketball players who don't wear the
Same shoes.
The shoes that match the uniform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Match the color scheme of the team they play for.
From Double T 97.3.
Nice to have you with us this morning on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. We come to you from the First United Bank Double T 97.3 studio. Yates Flooring Center chat line is open. Benchmark hotline is open as well. We'll have the high school fan zone tonight at 7 on 100.7 The Score. Coaches from Friendship and Lubbock Cooper will visit. Friendship off this week, and Lubbock Cooper takes on Coronado. Friday night at the Pirates' place. A little bit later on tonight, we'll have the Astros and the Diamondbacks. That'll be at 8. And then the Rangers playing at Seattle tonight. That's at 8 as well. We'll join the Astros game a little bit in progress. Rangers with a win last night. Astros have clinched the division, so they're moving on to the playoffs, much like the Yankees and the Clevelands. And see all what transpires when it comes to the baseball world. So be looking for that. It's a big weekend of football, obviously. Texas Tech and Kansas State will play in Manhattan. We'll have our Optimum Game Day Live coverage beginning at 7. The kick is at 11 o'clock from Manhattan. Biggest concern for you Saturday? Is it the K-State defense or the K-State offense?
It's Deuce Vaughn.
It's Deuce Vaughn. It's just nailed down to one person. Here's an article that.
And you?
I think for me it's Adrian Martinez. I think, and maybe it's the ghosts of quarterbacks past, and I realize there's differences between each one, but it just seems like for whatever reason, even Saturday against Oklahoma, when they needed to get a stop and 3rd and long, Martinez went for 20-something yards, and it just seems like K-State has always had that ability to do that when they need that. I mean, fill in the blank team. Generally speaking, that's what it feels like to me. I mean, certainly Deuce Vaughn is obviously a huge factor for them, but Martinez can do a little bit of everything, and so that's why I'm a little more concerned about him. I mean, it's not much. I mean, it's like 1A and 1B, right?
Boy, I just feel like you got to set the edge. You got to keep him in the pocket. Your edge discipline has to be really good in this game, because if you let him get outside of the pocket, then I feel like he has the chance to do damage with his feet. So if you can keep him in the pocket and force him to be more of a, just a drop back quarterback than a dual threat, then that would be massive. So I do think it's both the running ability of Deuce Vaughn and the running ability of Martinez that has me scared for this game. It really is. It's not the passing game part of things, but it'll be a huge challenge. This Tech defense has done a great job against the run so far this season, and it'll be a huge challenge for them this weekend. And I mean, I think we would all say you didn't shut down, but you contained Bijan Robinson last week, and we knew the Longhorns were going to have a great running game against you. Remember, they rushed for over 330 yards against you the year before. That number was more than cut in half in this game.
Basically the same guys.
Yeah, so great job by them. Great scheme put together by Coach DeRuiter. And it's going to take another great scheme and a great game by them defending the run if you're going to have a chance to win this game.
So, couple things here with regard to K-State. And we don't really you and I don't really get into the betting lines and the over-unders or anything like that. I kind of leave that to some of the other guys. But would you be surprised if K-State won by more than 8?
Mm-mm.
Last year
would you be surprised if Texas Tech won by more than 8? Mm-mm.
I think I'd be more surprised if K-State won by 8 than Tech won by 8.
What's the line?
The line is 7.5. K-State's favored by 7.5.
So you're going complete opposite of that.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with you.
Okay, that's all right. I mean,
we'll agree to disagree. For the first time ever. The
last 3 meetings, only one time has K-State won by more than 8. Last year they won by 1. In 2020 they won by 10, 31-21. That was in Manhattan. And then in 19 they won 30-27. And then you go back to 18, they won 21-6, and in 17 they won in overtime 42-35 here in Lubbock. That was particularly disappointing.
Last week I told you when you were rattling off all the wins that K-State had against
You mean Texas?
No.
Oh.
All the wins that K-State had against Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
I said none of that means anything. Oklahoma's going to blow them out.
Mm-hmm.
So this week you're rattling off all those stats, and I'm going to tell you none of them mean anything for this game.
No, you're right. You're right.
Hope that the Red Raiders change that trend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last week, you were 100% right. It followed trend. It followed the trend. I did not see K-State doing that to Oklahoma. It 100% followed the trend, and so this week we're hoping that it goes against the trend.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the trend,
and I'll continue to think that previous games don't affect the outcome of this one.
I know. Just sometimes I like providing a little historical perspective for you.
Sometimes, like if you're playing a sport, basketball or baseball or maybe even football, where like you have a hangover from week to week, then that affects the game.
Yeah.
Okay. Or one night you don't play well in baseball and you have a tough loss and you don't play well the next day because of it. I could see that, but like year to year, I just like, hey, we lost to these guys last year. Oh man,
decade to decade.
Here we go again.
Too. That probably doesn't matter a whole lot either.
Yeah, they beat us when I was 3. Oh man, we have no chance.
I know. So what you're telling me is Texas Tech's 13-6 win over St. Edwards on October 1st, 1927 won't factor into October 1st, 2022.
I don't think it will, but I still will suspect you to give us that stat later in the week.
Okay. I just don't want to disappoint you. As much as I disappoint you, I don't want to disappoint you in some things that you expect from me.
Would I be more fun if I bought into that? Would I be a more enjoyable co-host?
You ask me that almost daily. It's almost starting to give me a complex, thinking that there's something wrong with me.
I'm trying to be the man you want me to be, Chuck.
No, you're fine. You're doing just great. Here's a couple things. This article from the Wichita Eagle used to be Wichita Eagle and Beacon or Beagle. Anyway, they called it the Eggs and Bacon is what they called it. Wichita Eggs and Bacon, what they called it. The newspaper up there. Anyway. The Eagle Beacon is what they called it. But they called it the Eggs and Bacon is what they disparagingly called it. so
I'm laughing with you and at you at the same time.
At the same time, right?
Yeah.
At the same time. Anyway, here's a couple things. For K-State, they've been ranked before. They're ranked 25th in the latest AP poll. under Chris Kleiman. K-State has spent only a grand total of 7 weeks in the top 25 since 2019. Winning as a favorite hasn't been easy for Chris Kleiman. Okay. Here's something for you. Donovan Smith. You probably knew this, that he's the Big 12's leading passer. Okay. So they feel like the K-State secondary is going to be tested. Donovan's thrown for 1,117 yards and 9 touchdowns this season. He is the only quarterback in the Big 12 conference with more than 1,100 passing yards. I think they'll be looking at Donnie going, because I want to ask you, who's K-State concerned about? I think they're looking at number 7.
You've been listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.